All right.
So now we can start the virtual Kailash Yatra journey at least while we wait for a few more folks to join.
Can you make full screen?
It is full screen.
It is.
Yeah, on my end it is.
Yeah, it is. It is full screen. Perfect.
Yeah. The first introduction.
I'm hoping to record. Is that fine with you?
It's fine with me. I have no problems if you want to record
So in
it.
case some members who missed out and wants to see, I can share the link with them. So I'm recording.
Sure, no problem.
So all of us will have to behave, huh?
Yes.
Jabin is also here. Jabin, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Very nice. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
And nice to see Ranga and Vikram also.
Yes.
Amen. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya, Shalaben.
Bau દિવસથી સરલાબેન નહીં સરલા.
Shala? Okay, Shala.
Yeah. બહુ વખતે જોયા. તો કોઈ
Ah.
મળતી નથી ઝૂમમાં બહુ એટલે.
Oh, Geeta there. Geeta, hi, Geeta.
હા?
Hi.
Hello, Geeta.
Oh, hi, Jaben. Hello. Yeah, nice to see you, Jaben.
Thank you. Same to you.
Yeah, Sarala, I know Sarala. She came,
Yeah, we met somewhere.
yeah, you came for that bhajan also when
Yes.
Kirti arranged.
Yeah,
You and your mom were there, right? In your daughter's. Yeah.
શું થયું? રેકોર્ડિંગ કરે.
Mom, how old is she?
2 more minutes and then we can start. At 5:10 we begin.
Yeah. Let me ask Ranga how is he spending his time. Ranga?
Yeah, I'm trying to get in.
Yeah, get your video in.
I think we have seen him.
Kannada, Tamil.
Ranga is one of our.
It's not there.
No, not the video. We get your sound.
Now this you actually clicked on a question. Ranga, it will be second from your left. Second most lower button from the left is the.
I have some problem with the wire. Still waiting on something. I don't know.
Okay.
I was introducing Ranga by saying he is one of us who has a low immunity and kidney transplant. So he's spending most of the time
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Away from
You got the video now?
being with people. No.
We see your no, we still don't see, even though you probably have started it. We are not seeing your video. Maybe your computer doesn't have a camera.
I think there is some problem with the wireless connection or something.
Yeah, your laptop or computer does not have a camera. iPhone, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's why it is not coming. I will again
Re-log in. Yeah, maybe.
log in, maybe.
Yeah.
I guess we could get started.
Yeah.
Okay. Om Namah Shivaya. Auntie, you want to just get do the precursor before I start? Sarla Auntie?
How many minutes takes? That's okay.
તમે એક કે 2 મિનિટ મને ઇન્ટ્રોડક્શન આપો કે હું તો કરી નાખું મટીરિયલ ચાલુ તમે કયો
કરી દો ચાલુ, it's okay.
Okay. So, Om Namah Shivaya. Have been blessed and lucky. Jagdish Bhai has also already been to Kailash Yatra with us in 2014. So, some of this material might look familiar to you or that you have seen before, Jagdish Bhai. But essentially, lucky to be in Kailash with the Karnali and Hiraji team 3 times. I started that first journey was in 2010. The second journey was in 2014, and the last one was in 2018. There was a plan and a desire, and we were all signed up to go in July this year as well. But due to the COVID situation, all the yatra has been cancelled. So there has been no Kailash Yatra this year. So on that basis, I am not associated with Karnali group, by the way. This is just from my experience of having traveled with Karnali 3 times. That's how I'm basically presenting this material as to how I experienced it so far. Okay. So
Ashok Bhai, I was saying that we are blessed to have a presentation from you and Sarla Ben. You both did a great job when I had an opportunity to visit Kailash Mansarovar with you and Sarla Ben.
thank you very much. So kind of you to
Oh,
say
yeah.
that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So what I've done is I wanted to give a glimpse, and I think one of the members mentioned earlier, this will give us we will feel like we are virtually in Kailash, and that's my intent and hope with this presentation deck, right? So Kailash, for the most part, is essentially, think of it as a cold desert. It's a cold desert. That's what it is, where you see lots and lots of different types of weather patterns, different geographical patterns as you go through the Kailash Yatra, right? In the olden times, the way people used to go, and I'll explain that in a further slide, so you will see it virtually, visually as well. People used to go from Kedarnath and that Chardham area. You can also go straight up north, about 150 miles or so, give or take, to Kailash area, right? But nowadays, the most appropriate path is to go through Nepal or go through Sikkim. We generally go through Nepal because it gives you more acclimatization time, right? So in slide over here, you see the types of topography that you see when it comes to Kailash, right? And the types of things you see. This is another slide of glimpse of what you would see when you get closer to Kailash itself, right? So I know there'll be interest around it. So I'll walk through how the journey is conducted, but I know people are excited to what it is, right? So here you see, this is Mansarovar. There is Kailash in the backdrop on my top left. On the top right is people have already started the parikrama. So you see Kailash right here towards your right hand side. They're performing the parikrama as you go forward in this direction. There is an opportunity to use a mule or a horse, as they call it. That aid is available, and there is a small 6 kilometers that you cannot use a horse, and I'll speak to that in a subsequent slide. Here members are enjoying, or actually I should say experiencing a dip in the holy Mansarovar. And then of course at the very bottom you see this is Tirthpuri, the picture from Tirthpuri, and some of these pictures will come up again, but I wanted to start my presentation by sharing what types of things you would see when you undertake a Kailash Mahayatra. Okay. All right. So now let's go to the backdrop, right? In the background, where we have undertaken all our yatras through every time we have gone to Kailash Mahayatra, right? So Nepal is basically a small country that's squeezed in between China and India to the northeast of the quadrant, if you will. And that's essentially where we start our journey, in the place called Kathmandu. That's where typically we've always done our journey starting from. And that is where the Karnali is based out of, right? It's based out of Kathmandu. Okay, let's dive deeper. So when we look at Tibet, right? That's because the Kailash Mahayatra and the Kailash itself, right? It's right there, right? It is considered sacred. It has always been an inquisitive place for generations for human mankind, because it is a source of water, right? Water is a key element of the 5 elements for human survival that starts from the Kailash area, right? So when you think about Indus, Satluj, Ganga, right? All those start from there. And then, of course, the Yarlung, as they call it in Tibet or in China, is essentially Brahmaputra, right? So all those 5 rivers have their starting point in and around the Kailash Parvat or Kailash Pavitra Bhumi, as we say it, right? And in Tibet in large is also the source of the major rivers that flow out of China, right? So both the Yellow and the Yangtze essentially start from Tibet as well. One of the reasons way back in the 50s, and then of course in 62, the war with India, the reason China wanted to control of Tibet is their water source, right? The entire civilization, the Chinese population is based out of the east coast of China that's heavily dependent on both the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. And the starting point of that again is in China, is in Tibet. Not only that, but if you look at Burma, Irrawaddy, when you look at Thailand and Lagos and Vietnam, Cambodia, Mekong, all those rivers also have their sources starting in the Tibet as being the topmost roof of the world with where a lot of the ice packs are. And it's at a very high altitude. So you have gushing rivers. These are perennial rivers that run through to all 12 months in a year. Okay, let's take a dive a little bit deeper into it, right? So I mentioned Nepal earlier. You would start a journey in Kathmandu, which is basically the capital of Nepal. And I'm going to just orient your mind to the top left quadrant. This is where Mount Kailash is, right? So Kailash is essentially over here to the top left of it. And the journey we typically take, there are two or three paths, and I'll speak to each of them. The one that we took in 2018, we went through Lhasa. So we went to the capital of Tibet and did that. There is also an option prior in our 2014 journey or 2010 journey, we went through a place called Nyalam. And in the next visual, you will see a little bit more in detail. So bear with me. And then there is also a third option. There's a place called Kirung, which I'm highlighting right here. And that's the third path that Nepal has created. For a while after 2018 timeframe, when they had a big earthquake, this Nyalam road has become non-accessible, at least on the Nepal side, because of all the landslides that took place after the earthquake, and that road was not necessarily accessible. Just for large orientation, as I mentioned, that Kailash is here on the top left, and Everest is here on the right. So that's where the world's tallest peak is, right? Just to get a sense of where some of the largest peaks and famous locations are. Okay, let's take a dive a little deeper into this. If one is planning to take, oh, I didn't mean to jump 2 slides, 1 slide. Okay, some of the names have multiple, basically multiple names in Tibet. So for the same place, for example, we call it Kailash. That's what is referred to. But it's also called as Kang Rinpoche, right? In Tibetans, they call it that way. Even in Buddhists, they call it Mount Meru. So reference to the same place. Similarly, Mansarovar is called Mapam Yongko, right? If one is interested in undertaking this yatra and wants to know also from a historical standpoint and additional spiritual standpoint beyond Sanatan Dharma, then this is a good way to know of how it is referred to, because it is also revered for Buddhists and Jainism, for Buddhism, Jainism, and also Bon religion, which I'm going to speak to about a bit later, right? Shivastal is also spelled as Shivastal. It's one and the same. Drolmala plus is Drolma, La, right? And so on and so forth, right? One that's very interesting is every one of us calls it Kathmandu, but its original name in Sanskrit was also called Kantipur. But also the origins of Kathmandu was actually Kashtamandapam, because the whole city was made out of wood. And the reason of that is it is known to have seismic activity. It is known to have earthquakes in those types of situations, which is why the original architects and the thought leaders had called it Kashtamandapam. Let's build it with all the wood over there so that it's a lot more safer and for the life to flourish. In fact, I was blessed and lucky to be in Kathmandu or Kashtamandapam in the late 70s, early 80s. And at that point in time, quite a decent chunk of that city was made up of wood. Unfortunately, now it looks like one of our larger cities in India, which is all concrete for the most part. Okay. So I was mentioning earlier that I'll zoom into the Kathmandu area. So you go into Kathmandu, one path is through Lhasa. The other path is through Nyalam, and this path is, they're still trying to finalize the roads because this section that I'm highlighting between Kathmandu to Kodari, those roads are really devastated in the earthquake that took place. And the third path is through Kerong, right? So Kerong one is literally more open at this point in time, or at least it was open as of last year. That is the path of it, right? So you take either one of these paths, you're looking at about 1,400 kilometers in the Tibetan plateau that one will be traveling, right? This is where you'll be traveling through the cold desert that I mentioned. But most importantly, you're also generally climbing as you go from right to left or east to west, you'll be climbing altitude. So you're acclimatizing as you go along, right? Because Nyalam is at a lower altitude, it's about 12,000 or so. And then you'll go to Saga, then you go to Paryang, and so on and so forth, right? Then you'll stop at Mansarovar and such. Let me go draw your attention to the top left over here. Mansarovar is the shape of a skull, a human skull, right? So Manasarovar, or it's also known as, the shape, it's basically the mindset of Lord Brahma who put that together. The one next to it is called Skanda Sagar. Skanda Sagar, a lot of people call it Rakshastal because of association with Ravana having performed his penance over there to gain, to basically get a boon from Lord Shiva. But it's actually Skanda Sagar. It's a very pious location as well, but it tends to have a negative connotation. So whenever I present, I always mention it that we should not call it Rakshastal or Rakshatal. We should call it Skanda Sagar, which is the authentic name for that particular place. As I was saying earlier, to the very top left, you will see Kedarnath. That is where, like for example, Pandavas took their path through Kedarnath and they went further up north. And that is the path that a lot of spiritual folks used to take before they reach Kailash through that particular path. It's very arduous. It's very, very difficult. Even today, when relations were better with China, there were a small cross-section of people were allowed with a lot of military assistance and military guidance and training, maybe groups of 20 or 50 people, because you have to be really, really fit, because all of this journey, if one goes north of Kedarnath, has to be done by tracking. Whereas all this yellow path that I'm showing over here can be done by basically land transportation, because the roads are extremely good in this place. Two more things. Kailash is essentially, it's more or less north of where Mansarovar is, right? So Mansarovar and Kailash are not in exactly the same place. There is a little bit of a distance between the two. And then there is a place called Tirthpuri. Tirthpuri is where Badrinath's original Murti was actually placed over there. And then Adi Shankaracharya brought it to the current day Badrinath as we know it. But it originally started over there. That's the belief. Okay, to the bottom of the screen, as I was mentioning, there are 4 religions that are believe in Kailash: Bon religion, Buddhism, Sanatan Dharma, and Jainism. The difference is Bon actually performs the parikrama in a counterclockwise fashion. That is how they perform to it. And the other thing about the Bon religion is they perform their parikrama by doing Shashtang Pranam. So they get up, they perform the Shashtang Pranam. Wherever the head is reaching out to, they'll basically put a little marker, they'll stand up and just walk their 2 feet or 1 feet or whatever, the 2 steps, 3 steps, and then do another Shashtang Pranam. So they are performing that parikrama of 52 kilometers over a span of 15-20 days, right? In the such cold, arduous circumstances, because that's their belief system. But they do it counterclockwise. Whereas all 3 religions, Buddhism, Sanatana Dharma, and Jainism, perform their yatra in the clockwise direction. That's how these 3 religions do it. Okay, let's go to let's take a zoom into the more facts about Kailash and Mansarovar. So let me draw your attention to the left-hand side first. I've already mentioned that, Mansarovar looks like a shape of a skull. Here is these are actually Google picture maps, right? So these are actual pictures that we've scrapped from that. Kailash is at 21,000 feet of height, right? And I'm trying to share where Tirthpuri is, where Skanda Sagar is, and Gurla Mandata, right? Gurla Mandata is the glacier that actually feeds water to Mansarovar. It is not Kailash that feeds water to Mansarovar, because a lot of folks have this impression that Mansarovar water is actually from Kailash. That's not actually true. It's actually from Gurla Mandata. And Gurla Mandata is actually a higher peak. It's about 25,000 feet versus 21,000 and change, or 22,000 for Sri Kailash. Some of the facts of Mansarovar that are very interesting is it's one of the highest freshwater body. The parikrama, or the circumference of Mansarovar, is about 88 kilometers, with a total area of about 320 square kilometers. And at the depth, it is 300 feet. So it's a very high freshwater body. And like I mentioned, the water gets fed from Gurla Mandata. Okay, on the right-hand side, let's talk about the facts about Kailash, right? So the total parikrama is 52 kilometers. It's broken into 3 chunks of 25, 15, and 12. The first day parikrama is 25 kilometers, but of the 25 kilometers, 13 kilometers are done by road. So we get from a central place to a place called from Darchen to Tarboche. and that covers the 13 kilometers by road. The rest of the 12 kilometers can be done by tracking or horse. So either or can be used for the first day parikrama that will get you to the north point of the 3-day yatra. What we did last time in 2018, and that's what I think would be recommended, so you get more time at it, is the day 2 can be optional viewing and staying at North Point. So the North Point, which is one of the North Point is essentially top right. So what you see at the North Point is top right darshan, and you will see a bigger picture of it in a subsequent slide. But that is where you get a very good darshan of North Point. And when we do Charan Sparsh, you're essentially tracking 10 kilometers further in to get closer to this glacier that's available here. So that is what we did, and it's a very good experience to reach closer to the linga akar of Kailash.
Excuse me, is there any way you can make the sound louder?
Let me see if I can. Okay, let's try this. Does this help?
Yeah, definitely better. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so the Charan Sparsh is an optional thing that we did, but I think it's highly recommended. It also gives you more acclimatization time, because between the 3 days of parikrama, day 1, day 3, and day 4 are the 3 solid hiking days, or 3 parikrama days, I should say. Day 3 in this particular structure, as I've mentioned it, right, is essentially second day of the parikrama when you continue. That is the hardest day. That is the hardest day. So having this break day kind of gets you all settled and get more acclimatized and ready. I was mentioning at the beginning of the conversation or beginning of my presentation that you have to walk certain amount. You cannot take horse or all through 3 days of tracking, right? This 6 kilometer downhill on the second day of the total 15, right? Total 15 kilometers, but 6 kilometer downhill, you have to do it by your foot. It is too dangerous to use a horse for you to fall over. So the reason I bring that up is one can be super excited and say, I will do day 1, everything by walking. I want to do it. The second day, the sub 6 kilometers is very difficult. It's a difficult terrain because the breathing is hard. So you have to hold your energy. But when you go all out, you need to make sure that you have sufficient energy to be able to do the 6 kilometer downhill on your own. You will it's downhill, so that's easier for sure, but you cannot take an assistance of a horse on that 6 kilometer downhill. Of the entire 52 kilometers, like I said, the first 13 is done by road. The most difficult is this this portion over here, 6 kilometers going up from Derapuk to upwards to Dolmala Pass. That is where it's the most difficulty. The last piece is, okay, sorry, I mean to jump to the next slide. I was not done with the previous one. Give me a second here. Page up. There we go. Okay, so, okay, hold on a second. There. Okay, there. Okay, so this 6 kilometers downhill is where you have to have the energy to walk down, and then there's a flat 3 kilometers. The last day's yatra, which is, I'm sorry, last day's parikrama, the third day, is Zutulpuk all the way to Darchen, and that's a really, really easiest of all the 3 days of hiking that you have to do. I also find that this last day is called the hike or parikrama through the Valley of the Enlightenment. And the belief system is that Saptarishis caves are associated in that region. So it's very peaceful. It's very introspective as you go through the last day. Another thing that it also does a very introspective and a relief on every one of us performing the yatra, no matter how many times you've done it, is you have that sense of satisfaction, a sense of completion, because you've gone through the most difficult part. Now you know it's downhill. It should not be too bad. And your body is very much acclimatized. So it doesn't become very, very, very difficult to follow through, right? It's not allowed to be climbed on Kailash. And then, as I mentioned, that the Bon and the Kora, they also call the parikrama as Kora in this thing, right? In the Bon religion, or even the Buddhism, they call it the Kora. Are you performing a Kora? And we call it the parikrama, which is going around, right? The first Tirthankar in Vrishabji Maharaj, he did his tapascharya in Ashtapad. So Ashtapad is, when you will see in the south ring, which will come in a subsequent slide, you will see bigger pictures of it. That is where it is belief system is, that is where he performed his penance or tapascharya. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. So as part of the parikrama, the route that Hiraji and the Karnali team put together is we first go to Mansarovar, we perform a havan over there. So you get a secondary blessing, right? The very first blessing you get in Kathmandu with Pashupatinath. So that is the very first place where we get a blessing when you go to higher level places like this. And then the second one is performing a havan at Mansarovar by taking a bath in the Mansarovar water, and they make arrangements for that also. And after that, we go to the abode of Sri Vishnu, right? As I was mentioning a moment ago, that this is essentially to the right. So in some sense, when you go to Kailash, you're essentially going to the all three trinity, right? Because Mansarovar is Lord Brahma's creation. We go to Tirthpuri, which is Lord Vishnu. And of course, Kailash is Shivji himself, right? So it's all the entire trinity is covered when we go through this yatra, particularly the way the Karnali folks established this particular route, right? So it looks like a lot of ruins because it is very, very ancient and old, but it's a major tirthsthal because this is where all the Jyotirlings are also placed, right? So the replicas of it, not actual Jyotirlings, but replicas are placed. And the original Murti that is currently in Sri Badrinath was here in the Tirthpuri, right? That's the belief system. And Adi Sankaracharya brought it to the current Badrinath, right? And the Murti was submerged for several long periods of time underground. And Adi Shankaracharya extracted it and then brought it to current day Badrinath. I think one of the things that you will notice is when you go to Badrinath, you don't see that facial structure and the Murti structure does not look Indic more in nature. It looks more Mongolian or Tibetan in nature. If you see that facial expression, right? But even in Jagannath Puri, that facial expressions and the way it's put together comes from here. So it just gives more credence to the fact that yes, it must have come from Tibetan plains to Badrinath versus the other way around. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So now let me jump into the yatra itself, right? The 3-day parikrama and what you get to see. So you start from a place called Darchen. Then you do the 13 kilometers road trip up to the place called Tarboche, right? So when you're in Tarboche, this is what you get to see. What I see on this, which is start here. There's a place called Yamdwar. You take permissions from Yamdwar and you see Kailash essentially to your right of you. That's where the Kailash is from the starting point, because we're going to do a clockwise parikrama. And on the first day, you go from Yamdwar, so after Tarboche, I should say, you continue hiking, and almost at the midpoint over here, if the clouds are clear, you will get to see West Darshan. The west face of Sri Kailash will come into play, right? I'll show you a bigger picture of it. If you see the South Darshan, this is called the more of the Parvati Swarup or the Ganga Swarup of of Kailash, right? Because you have the Jata, and then when the bigger picture will be more clear, you will see that. You will also see Trinetra. The exact same one in the north face, which is right here at the very top, which is what you complete on day 1 of Parikrama. It is more of a lingaka, right? It's the same Kailash, but it's more of the ling shape of the Kailash. And this picture in itself was taken at 9 p.m. local time. So it stays, daylight stays longer because China does not observe, time zones. It basically enforces Beijing time on the entire country. So that's why it is, that's how the sunrise and sunsets are all messed up for Tibet. And so we stay in a place called Derapuk. So you start from Tarboche, you continue hiking, and this can be all on a horse. You get up to a place called Derapuk, which is about at 16,000 feet. From here on, like I was mentioning, if you do Charan Spurs, you're going to go from here towards Kailash in this southerly direction and get Charan Spurs. Come back out here, and the next day's yatra is when you will pass through a place called Shivasthal, and after Shivasthal through Dolmala. So that's what you get to see from Dolmala at the very high point. That is the highest point of your 3-day of the entire Kailash Mahayatra, right? You will be at roughly 8,500 feet above sea level. And that's what is the most difficult element that you're trying to do, right? The previous day, you would be at 16,000 and you would be climbing up 2,500 feet, right, to get up to here. And there's a lot of switchback. This is just for ease. It's drawn in a straight line, but it's actually not a straight line. And you will see in a subsequent picture, it's a lot of switchback to get up to Dolmala Pass. Then you will pass through a place called Gaurikund. And then past Gaurikund, you take this downhill. So this downhill past Gaurikund has to be done by walking. There's no assistance with horse that can be provided. After that, it's very difficult because generally it's cloud covered during most of the year to get East Darshan, also because from this vantage point, it's quite far where Kailash is. But the night halt you will do on the following day is a place called Zutulpuk. which is at 15,000 and change, 15,600 and change. That is where you will do the night hold. And then finally, you will exit out the following day where I was saying the Valley of Enlightenment. So from Zutulpuk to Zongzerbu is where you have the Valley of Enlightenment hike. And it's a very pleasant and easy hike. And this is essentially what you get to see. So my intent of this pictorial over here is to visually give a feel of how the 3-day yatra looks like and sort of what you envision and see as you go through the various days. Okay. Okay, this gives a different perspective of it, of what type of heights you're going to climb, right? So in the far left, if I draw your attention to the bottom left, Burj Khalifa, which is the world's tallest tower, is about 2,700 feet. This is drawn to scale. It's yay high, right? The topmost peak is that high. And this is what you're essentially going through as you go through the Kailash Mahayatra, right? So Kathmandu, excuse me, is about 4,600 feet, and we'll be performing, as I was mentioning, right? There'll be sightseeing and briefing that happens. There is a Havan Puja that takes place at Pashupatinath. Then if you go through Lhasa, then the next day you would be taking a flight and going up to Lhasa, which jumps you from 4,600 to almost 12,000 feet, which is the same thing that would happen if you go through Nyalam. And that's where what I like about the program over here is it gets a break day, right? So this was a travel day. You need a break day to acclimatize. And you also get to see on this particular day the palace, right? The Potala Palace, which is basically Dalai Lama's palace before he came to exile and settled in India. But it's still there. The palace is still there. It's a beautiful sight. We were able to see that last time. Then from Lhasa, you go into a place called Singatse, a little bit of a height. This is all road, by the way. From Singatse, we go into Saga, and there's another night halt over there. So every one of these blocks is a night halt. So Lhasa has 2 nights, Kathmandu has 3 nights, depending on when you come. Saga, there's 1 night, and then you go to a place called Mansaro. So see, there is a jump between Singatse to Saga to Mansaro, not big jump, but you will feel it because once this is a logarithmic scale. So every 100 feet or 500 feet that you add, once you're at 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 feet, it feels exponentially more difficult. So one needs to be prepared. I don't mean to scare anybody. I think if you have your good Shraddha and your belief system is strong and you're prepared ahead of time, almost anybody can perform this yatra. I don't think it's anyone that cannot do it, but it also should not be taken lightly. It can cause issues otherwise. So once you're at Mansarovar, we would be there going at Mansarovar, taking a parikrama of the Mansarovar itself, the 88 kilometers, and also the parikrama of Skandasagar, right? That takes place that day. The following day, we go to Darchen, and on the way to Darchen, we also visit Tirthpuri, which is the abode of Lord Vishnu, as I was mentioning, and then we stay a night at Darchen. After that, the 3-day parikrama starts, right? So we go to Tarboche, which is a 13-kilometer, little bit of height, and I highlighted which the tracking is there, right? So there is 13 kilometers up front by road, then 12 kilometers by trekking or horse, right? And then you stay a night in Derapuk. And after Derapuk, we'd stay 1 more night here in this particular program to do Charan Spurs, right? So you have an either off day, and if you feel you're not feeling good and you want to stay and conserve your energy, you can do that. Or certainly, I would recommend highly to make an attempt to go the 10-kilometer hike. Go to the base of the Sri Kailash and the glacier that's associated with it, and come back. The following day is the hardest one, right? Because you're going to go up to 18,500 feet. But you don't stay overnight over there. So you go from Derapuk, go up, and then go down to Zutulpuk, right? So Zutulpuk is where you're going to spend the night on that particular day. It's the same day where you do that. And there is a 6-kilometer downhill that I'm mentioning again over here, which has to be done by foot. Following day, you come down to Zongzerbu, and that's when you will finish the parikrama. And it's quite likely that the same day we can go all the way back to Saga. So now we are essentially making a return journey. That's why we are climbing back down. And then if you're coming back through Kerong, then we'll go from Saga to Kerong and back to Kathmandu. Or alternatively, it will be Saga to Lhasa, in which case there'll be 1 more day before you come to Kathmandu, right? So it depends on which plan gets associated and which locations get opened up. Because as I mentioned, there are 3 possible ways that we can go there now. And depending on the circumstances of post-COVID, of what China allows and what China does not allow, and what are the practical realities, Hiraji's team will come up with either the Lhasa option, Lhasa Kerong combination option, or Nyalam option. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, I think one of the things the folks may want to know is what's the best way to prepare, right? If you are interested to do it, and hopefully that to Shivji's Krupa, it opens up next year. That's also It depends on his wish for us to be there or not to be there. But to cultivate a positive mindset. If you have a mindset that no, I can't do it, no, this is very hard, oh, the air is very, very thin, you will have more difficulty to achieve it. I would say from my personal experience that this yatra is a lot more of a mental game than a physical game. Even though it looks like it's a lot more physical, you need to be mentally a lot more stronger. That yes, I can do it. Not overconfident. I should emphasize that. Not overconfident, but you need to be mentally strong that yes, I can do it and I can make this happen, right? It is a lot more mental than physical, as I mentioned. The next thing is definitely focus on pranayam, right? You do want your lungs to be clean and have do pranayam so that you have more capacity to breathe. It's a fact that as you go higher, not just in Kailash, in any place, that's why the people said, people, when the basketball players have a hard time in Denver, it's a mile high city, you just have, your lung capacity is going to be challenged. So if having pranayam and nasal breathing as the backdrop, right, doing it for 4, 5, 6 months on a continuous basis, right, to build that discipline within yourself is certainly very helpful. And do some walking. It doesn't have to be necessarily fast paced, but get into the habit to be comfortable with the nature, right? Sometimes when we live in a cosmopolitan city, we don't have as much opportunity unless we go out to hike or go to a park or somewhere to be with nature. The more you are with nature, the more comfortable you are, and at longer durations, right? If you can keep on hiking or walking for a couple of hours over the weekends or whatever, that would be a good way. Good way to prepare for a yatra like this, right? And if you are interested in interacting a lot more with the local Tibetan folks, it's very good idea to pick up some simple words and phrases that you can talk to your local Sherpas and local folks over there and communicate with them. Not just for transacting purposes, but even just generally having a conversation with them. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to some of the pictures real quick. How much more time do I have? Maybe 5, so I can accordingly plan my next session.
You have enough time. No worries. We don't have a closing end time, so please.
Okay. So like I was mentioning, Jagdish Bhai was also part of this group. He's right there as you see it, Jagdish Sagar, and Auntie was also there. So we were all there in this trip in 2014. We were 55 of us that undertook this yatra in that group, and the age group varied from all the way from 12 to 65, right? And we had made these t-shirts just to be happy, just a sense of accomplishment that we made it to 18,500 feet. And we all wore it. You will see that in some of the fewer slides that I'll see coming up next. Okay. As I was mentioning, that we do a Havan Puja in Pashupatinath. So this is the experience of the type of Havan Puja we're talking about, right? It's done in the mandir itself, in the confines of the Shivji's mandir, because as I was showing you pictures about Kailash, there is no temple. There is no specific temple to speak of in Kailash itself. So a typical at least I'm of the belief system that it is good to take permission, good to take Shivji's, and this is the Shivji's very authentic temple. So you can take permission from here, and then once you complete the yatra, you should come back and also just visit the temple before you take off to US or wherever else you're trying to go. But you can kind of take permission, get a Havan Puja, get all the aspects done over here before you continue on your journey. So a lot of familiar faces will be seen here because this is our group again from 2014 timeframe. This is when we took the Lhasa trip, right? So this is the mix and match. So when I went in 2018 and we did go through Lhasa, and so this is the Potala Palace that I was mentioning. This is what the Potala Palace looks like, and there's lots and lots of steps. So it's a perfect way for us to climb up and get acclimatized, and also be climbing at 14,000 feet, right? 12, 13, 14,000 feet. There were like 6 of us that went in there, so it's hard to see with all because everybody was wearing in sun. But folks who wanted to see me, this middle person is me. That's me. On the leftmost, you will see Kamlesh Bhai. I'm sure many of you might know them. Rajesh Patel was next to it, and then this is my younger brother Haresh, and then Nirali, right? So 6 of us were undertaking this particular yatra in 2018 timeframe. Okay. Again, when you go through some of the passes, right? So this is the larger group at Lalungla Pass, right? What are the types of areas that you see? What I like about it is when you see high altitude points like this and when they stop, by the way, the person in that jacket and cross checks with white and black, that's Sarla Auntie. So you want to stop out, it'll be windy, it'll be cold, but step out, get acclimatized with that air, walk around. You don't have to necessarily burn a lot of energy and jump around, but take every opportunity when you stop by to get acclimatized with it, because it's not just for your well-being to perform the yatra, but more importantly, you've taken this you've undertaken this particular yatra to get not just acclimatized, but to get in tune with what Kailash has to offer. So if you stay bundled up and not explore and not be out there, then you won't get the positive vibrations or the experiences that one gets to see when you are in that holy land, if you will, right? And these are some of the local Tibetan, who want to sell their trinkets and such like that. And they're very, very friendly people, very friendly people. It pains my heart to see that the Tibetan population has been so cruelly controlled by the Chinese and brutally treated as well. I would venture to say, I hope I'm not offending anybody on this line, but I would venture to say that if the Tibetan population, and particularly the Buddhist religion, was even slightly more aggressive like Islam, this would have been another Jerusalem, and they would have really fought back. But they're so peaceful, they're so giving, and that's why the oppression continues till date. But it is what it is. Anyway, coming back to the track of conversation that we're having today, some of the other pictures that you see, this is a mustard farm, right? A lot of mustard farming you will see, because you will definitely go there in the summer. Kailash Yatra is not open until Kailash Yatra is not open until until May, late May, and then generally closes out in September timeframe, because the rest of the time frame is too cold and we cannot necessarily go. So the local population tries to do whatever growing you can do. This is another view of a small little patch of land and a build out. The road is coming down south. What I really like about this bottom picture is you see a beautiful paddy land or a grassland associated with it, with a nice little mountain capped mountains over there. And what's funny is all these peaks are so tall, so big. It's just breathtaking and makes you feel how small us human beings are in terms of its sheer size. Okay, you also get to see, like I said, a lot of folks who have been to either Yuma or in the Middle East, right, in Dubai and such. You see a lot of desert landscapes like this as well. This is not unheard of in Kailash. You're landsliding and such, because when you see snow and mountain, one might think that this may not be the terrain available, but this is true. You see desert over here, you see a nice freshwater body over here, and a mountain and clouds and all that, all in one frame. So it looks very fascinating from that perspective as you travel through this is between Saga and Mansarovar. That's where these pictures were taken from. Again, the top left person over here who is holding her hand up is none other than Sarla Aunty. Okay, this is a group picture this is in Darchen. So this is Darchen when we're all we even had young little kids, like I said, of 12 years of age, but we all very happy to have the sense of pride of having conducted this yatra as a group. And this is before we start our parikrama for 3 days. Okay, as I mentioned, this is the south face. So this is the Kailash darshan that you get to see from the south face. I was mentioning Trinetra, right? If you see bottom right over here, which is essentially the same picture, right? 1, 2, and 3, right? The 3 eyes. That's how the Sri Kailash looks from the south face, right? It's right there. And then very closely over here, from another view, it'll be easier to see. This is basically, it feels like the Ganga Ji is weighing from passing through that. And actually, there is a river. Karnali River, as they call it over there, that passes through that phase of it, right? So this is the south face of Kailash as you look at it. And when you start your parikrama or from Darchen, this is the view that you're going to get because you're facing Kailash is to the north of you. So you're getting the south face darshan of the Sri Kailash. As you move forward and get to the first night halt, you will go to the north face. So this is the darshan you get from Derapur. It's amazing. The exact same Kailash looks very, very different on the north face, because in my opinion, as I feel it, that this is the Lingakar of Shivji, right? The other one is the Trinetra and the Gangaji and the spirit of it, right? Whereas this is the Lingakar of it, right? And you always have this, Sheshnag or at the very top of Shivji, right? That's how it's always snowed in, because it snows each and every day. So there's some very breathtaking views. As I was mentioning about Charan Spars, there is a little bit of a spot in this V curve. That is the hike we do, right? We get closer to this so we can touch the snow, the glaciatic snow that comes out of Sri Kailash, right? And get to touch that. When we do Charan Spars, that is the advantage of being able to do so. Okay, some more pictures. This is when we perform Charan Sparsh. So you get to see what happens if Charan Sparsh and get to the north side. Inside, because that looks very far, it's amazing all the types of formations that are seen that get automatically created because of the snow formations and the spirit of this particular place. It's just all I can say is it's breathtaking and it's just absolutely amazing. That things that go through your mind when you are when you are here. Certainly a magnetically charged place. Okay, then comes the very difficult day. The second day's yatra, as I was mentioning, the second day is the hardest day, and it is a switchback. See, it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And since you're finding it hard, this is when the yatra is started, right? The hiking is started. In this picture, you're looking back at it. That is the dormitory that you have stayed the previous night, and you're making a journey up. What is important, in my opinion, from conducting this yatra so far, is that you should not look up and say, "Oh my God, this is 5 more switchbacks or 7 more switchbacks." It'll discourage you. It will disappoint you. You should just hunker down, put your head down, and just think about your next 2 steps, next 3 steps, next 5 steps, right? Just be no more than 3 to 5 steps, because you've come to perform this yatra not to get discouraged and disappointed and get your mind to work against you. Just take this as a journey and an experience. What is my next 1 step, next 2 step? Because what that will do is 2 things, right? One, you're not worried about, hey, Sarla auntie is way far over here, or Bhagu uncle is way out over here. You don't worry about it. This is your selfish journey. You should care for what you're trying to do. And your experiences are, each and everyone's experience is uniquely different in your own, right? So you've conducted this yatra, you've taken upon this on yourself. Just be very selfish. Even if you go as a couple, I would say even each and everyone, husband and wife, should individually walk and just be quiet. Just say Om Namah Shivaya within your mindset, because if you speak out loud, you will get out of breath. So within yourself, just keep chanting and just experience it selfishly each and every moment as it is, as you conduct through this second day. In fact, that's true for all 3 days, but particularly on this day, that would be the best way to do it, not only for your success of completing the day, but more importantly, you want to experience to the fullest that whatever you are going to experience as you go through it, rather than somebody else's experience, right? So why give it up for a chance? Be very selfish. Just take 2 steps, 1 step, 3 steps at a time. Just focus on that. Don't look anywhere else, because it's very easy to see and get all wound up that, hey, when will I finish it? When you're not here to, there is no victory lap. There is no prize waiting for you to finish it. They will wait for us, everyone, to finish the yatra. So just be very, very, very selfish. Just take a step at a time and just internalize, just introspect and internalize the experience that Kailash has to offer to each and every one of us. Okay. So when you get to the very top, the Dolmala Devi Pass, this is what you see. It's a very common habit, or a practice, I should say, in Buddhism, to have these prayer flags, right? You can even purchase them. Each of these prayer flags actually has a prayer. Each of these flags have a prayer inscribed on it to promote peace in the world, right? It's actually promotion of peace in the world. And the thought process is they always hang this high at a very high locations or high altitude, so that it'll flutter. And by fluttering, that peace, message of peace, basically goes across the globe, right? That is really the intent behind it. That's why they do it. The bottom picture over here is about Gauri Kund. As you see, as you come down from Dolmala, start descending, I should say. Okay. Let's go next. Now you're basically coming down and doing that walk that I was mentioning. You're hiking down. There are areas, that's why snowshoes are advisable, waterproof and snowshoes, because you will be going through some snow areas as well. Not a whole lot, but some areas will certainly be there. And in the bottom left, I'd like to draw your attention. These are the bone folks who are doing the Shashtang, right? We can't even walk, and we can't even walk with, say, 50 grams of weight in our hands, because it just feels very heavy at that altitude. And these folks are getting up, performing a Shashtang, marking, getting up, and then performing a Shashtang all together, right? So whenever we meet them, it's best to take their blessing and basically perform a namaskar to them, because they are undertaking a very arduous journey that we are having hard time to do it in 3 days, whereas these folks are doing it in this format for 10, 12 days or more. By the way, on the top left, this is the picture of Hiraji. So for those of you who may not have seen him, that's essentially Hiraji, and that's one of his teammates. He has an excellent team that comes with to ensure that everybody has a proper supply. So at these altitudes where we have a hard time walking. He has folks who are running around with oxygen cylinders. So it's really amazing. Of course, they're acclimatized, but still. See, here is a person that she was performing Shashtang. So we took a picture with her. She has this dress, and they put on the by the way, on the palms, they put a little bit of a piece of wood over there, so that, you know, when they're coming down, the snowbite doesn't get to them, or they don't get super cold. But still, it's still a pretty difficult arduous task.
Which religion does that, Shasta?
Bone religion.
What is that religion? Is it the Indian religion?
It's more Tibetan in nature.
Okay.
Buddhist.
It's actually a flavor of Buddhism, but they primarily bone, because Buddhists themselves do perform clockwise. These guys do counterclockwise. Bone do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is a switchback? You kept using that word.
Switch. Okay, let me go to that and I explain that. Sure. So switchback is this, right? You're going left to right, then you go basically right to left again, then left to right to left, right?
Oh, okay. Winding road. Winding road.
So yeah, so when you're down here, it's easy to see, oh, I have 8 more rounds to go. And that's going to discourage and disappoint you. Yeah, that one. Okay, so let's continue on. Okay, so this is the Parikrama completion. Everybody has completed it. Everybody has super happy faces and are delighted to have completed the yatra. Jagdish Bhai, you're right there.
Thanks.
Yes. And we had all our
Which one is Jagdish Bhai?
Jagdish Bhai, yeah, right here where my mouse is, 4th person.
Okay.
Yeah. And here is the entire Shakti gang that had come with us, our spouses. And then the kids had come with us as well. So there were 12 of them who were with this group. And the age group was 12 through 18, 20 type of 12 to 16, 18, I think. Yeah, 6 years of gap in there, that group. Many of them are collegians. And this was a little bit of a certification ceremony that was conducted at the end of back in Kathmandu, right? So yatra completion, a sense of satisfaction coming from it. So yeah, this is the adult group that's going through the happiness of having completed this Mahayatra. And I think that concludes my presentation. Har Har Mahadev, with the top left being the south face, the top right being the north face, with the daylight, with basically more of a moonlight view of it. The bottom left is with the sunset. It's around sunset. That's why you see this golden glow, goldenish flavors over here. And the bottom right, I wanted to just take the top peak of the north facing, which is where, we see Vasuki on Shivji's, on Shivji. That's it. Question?
While you go with the team, are there other teams also moving? Because in the pictures, I saw only our group moving with no one else around.
There is no, so generally what happens is, groups go together. There is a mutual understanding that, hey, this group let it pass at this time, this group at another time, but there's no fixed rule. It just happened to be that particular time we were the only folks making the journey, moving up, but it's quite likely that there are other 2 groups also that are making the journey simultaneously. But one thing that I've noticed about the Karnali team is they have enough support staff that is both on the leading, in the middle, and at the very end. So they ensure that if people get lagged behind, they're with you. But it can be intermixed. You can easily have other groups also performing the parikrama with you at the same time. Okay.
What is the minimum people you are enrolling for your group?
That is probably a more appropriate question for Sarla Aunty than me, because I don't enroll. Sarla Aunty?
Mute your.
Yeah.
Sarla Ben, unmute karo tamne, pehla unmute karo. Sarla Ben, unmute karo pehla, pachi ko.
Yeah, so I think what I have seen in the past is we have gone, like I mentioned, our group in 2014 was 55 of us.
Okay,
but
Yeah.
it can be less than that also, right? We have it doesn't necessarily mean that the whole group can be has to be made up just from people from Phoenix, because Karnali does get people from everywhere and they club them together. But typically what they try to do is the US folks are together. If the US folks have some family members or extended family either in India or in the Middle East or Europe, they can also join, right? There is no limitation to it.
Mhm.
In terms of a minimum size, if it's just 10,
Minimum size 150.
yeah,
And we can take off at least one Land Cruiser or helicopter, almost 15 people less. Not more than less, 15 people.
Or 50.
50.
15.
15.
Lowest group is a 15 and highest group is 150.
Yeah, 15 to 150. 15
Yes.
to 150.
Yes.
Any limitations for the old people?
What is the limitation?
For the old people, like 75
Old
years
people is depends health. Depends health.
good health.
Yes, like blood pressure, diabetes, whatever medical situation, depend on medical situation. If they are fine, then sometimes 80 years also they can do parikrama with us.
Oh,
Why you are fine?
You are fine because I think you are under 75, right?
yes.
Then you are fine because I'm 72. I'm fine. You are fine.
Sarlaben, you are above average. You are not.
Yeah, above average, right?
Being 70.
Salaben, you are fortunate that you are in 8% of the global population, because 8% of the population is more than 60 years. Global.
Okay.
Ashok bhai, you did like a fantastic job of explaining everything from.
Excellent, excellent.
Very
Yeah,
excellent job.
excellent.
Excellent.
Excellent job. Very,
Yeah.
very well.
Thanks
Very
a
well.
lot.
Everything.
Great
Yeah.
job. And Prakash bhai,
Thank
I
you.
request you, if you can make this one and put in email to everybody like us, we can go more in detail.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would.
And Karnali take all Himalaya Yatra, all India spiritual Yatra. We take in every year. Amarnath Yatra in end of June to July and August, and Char Dham May, June, and September, October. Bara Jyotirling also in October. Narmada Parikrama also in November, October, and Panch Mahabhut also same time.
Bluetooth hama chale na chale.
Yeah, we can take
And
one at a time.
we take Mount Everest base camp and Gosai Kund and Damodar Kund, Kagbushundi, Muktinath, and other all Nilgiri mountain, nearby Nilgiri mountain. We take all other yatra also.
By the way, there are quite a few religious visiting place from Kathmandu. Janakpur, Sitaji's.
Yes,
birthplace
Janakpur,
is
Valmiki Ashram, Chitwan, Devgarh, Lumbini, we take all other yatra also.
Yeah, Bhagubhai, you're absolutely right. Okay, it is if you are planning to be there.
Yeah,
and
that
interested-
Valmiki Ashram is very nice.
interested to consider going extended period of time and cover all. There are many other places in Nepal itself that's worthwhile considering and adding to the trip.
Bhai, can you stop sharing the screen so that we can see everybody?
Sure.
There.
તમે આવો તમે કે દેખાતા નથી અશોકભાઈ.
Okay, આવ્યા.
So Ashok bhai, I think quite a few people in attending the presentation today have been to Kailash. Can we just get who has gone there?
Yeah, definitely.
Jaya and myself.
Raise our hands.
Lalit
Taban, Bhagubhai.
Lalit bhai was
Lalit
with
bhai
us.
has gone there.
Yeah, we were together.
Lalit bhai, unmute.
Last year I went Kailash Inner Kora with Saptarushi Cave, Nandi Parvat,
Right.
and Ashrapad.
Ashok bhai, tell us.
All the way touch Kailash.
Sarla Ben, tell us also about you taking us to Mount Everest.
Mount Everest.
Yeah, let's do Mount Everest.
Wait.
Base camp, you mean?
Base camp
Wait.
Base camp. Base camp.
to view
In
the Mount Everest.
In August also very nice. September, August, September, and not in July, August. September and August is good.
કૈલાસની યાત્રાનું બતાવતા હતા.
And
Ashok
take a
Ashok
15 for
Tripathi.
12 days. Minimum you need 12 days to walk
And
from
You know,
Nepal size. From Nepal size.
Sarlaben, I just wanted to let people know who you are. Sarlaben, of course, is Dr. Pinakin Dave's wife, and she is also volunteering for this Karnali Kailash Mansarovar trips. She's very nice and very good, because when I went in 2014, I went to Kathmandu and I was so excited. So I was just trying to walk around. She called me and said, you know, you better put on a mask. Otherwise you will fall sick before you can even go to Kailash. So that was very important thing, because it is so polluted, and people are very comfortable wearing masks in 2014, 6 years back. And that will help us save the energy. And also she makes sure that you are dressed appropriately, cover your ears, wear sunglasses, because it's very important when you are trying to do the high altitude hikes like this, you maintain and conserve energy, that Ashok Bhai was trying to say about that. It's very important. Otherwise, by the time you go to Manas Sarovar, you may fall sick and you may need oxygen and you may not be able to do the parikrama. Right, Sarlaben?
So Jagdish, when are you doing the second one with Gitaji?
Yes. After all the coronavirus.
I escaped.
So do you think you can?
I thought Jagdish was saying all this so Gita get excited about doing that.
Right.
Yes.
Now Ashok Bhai is handling very well all group.
Sarlaben is very caring.
Now very good experience. Almost he did 3-4 times.
I have one more question for. You think you can talk about the food? How did you manage with the food?
Food. Ashok Bhai, go ahead, please.
Food is not a problem at all, because Karnali takes care of all the food. There is no places that you can eat in Tibet that we can consume it. There's no vegetarian options for the most part. But we don't need to worry about breakfast, lunch, dinner. They take the raw material, they have the chefs, they will cook the food, they will serve to you, not only serve to you, they will force you to eat, and they also have food that is appropriate for that altitude, because you need to have certain places higher protein content. So they prepare the food. It'll be more bland in nature, but it's done purposefully bland so that your digestive system is not attacked. So no food, nothing to worry about the food. From Kathmandu back to Kathmandu, as part of this yatra, Karnali team takes care of your meal. That make sure that you're fed, and also you're fed the right food so you can successfully complete the parikrama.
Right.
Right food.
Kitchen in charge. I am kitchen in charge. Every night I have to make menu and tell them what are you going to make it. Sometimes now I make Mexican food also, because many kids come with us and they like.
What's the menu like? What's the menu like?
Menu is depends what vegetable we got it.
Could you give an example?
Example, like a dal, bhat, shak, roti, lunchtime, morning breakfast, uttapam, sometimes dosa we make also, all continental breakfast, and thepla, methi na debra, yellow chapati, toast, some sugar-free, sugar with sugar, garam tea, masala tea, plain tea, everything. Everything just like a home.
Those who are
Like a home.
Sarlaben, is it all
question
paid in advance?
whether you found that strenuous, moderately strenuous, or easy to do. And I want Jagdish ji and Jayaben and Bhagubai to say their views. Whether did you find that strenuous? Did you find that moderate? Did you find it?
Well, we found basically moderate, with a lot of attention of breathing, and parikrama was definitely a challenge, but with Shivji's blessings, we did it. That is a challenge. And obviously, Lalit Bhai and I were much younger that time.
We do, we do before the yatra start, we teach them yoga, pranayam. Every day we do yoga. Every early morning prayer and yoga, and make sure everybody is breathing properly. Morning and evening oximeter, we check our blood pressure, everything. And if we feel like that person is not okay, then we give immediately oxygen and make a same level whichever we need it. But 95% people do parikrama very well.
Yeah. Well, in Arizona, we are sort of blessed. We can go in Flagstaff and San Francisco Peak and what have you, and experience that exposure to 13,000 feet elevation. So that's a good opportunity for Phoenix Yatris to accumulate themselves. I would say a month before the Yatra, they can do a couple of times trips up there.
That's like Ashok Bhai arrange like that every time he do.
Right. Yeah. But Prakash Bhai, Ashok Bhai had organized a lot of hikes in Scottsdale and Phoenix.
Very well organized.
Scottsdale and Phoenix, and then we also went to Flagstaff and hiked Humphreys Trail, which is about 12,663 feet tall. So you get an idea of whether your body can handle the elevation, handle the walk and everything. And compared to what features you have here, facilities, in India, they have never walked and they will all be sitting in the bus and coming over there. So you will find it reasonably easy, but you have to make sure that you are physically fit and follow all the rules, wearing covering your ears and making sure you don't spend too much energy on the first day or second day, and make sure you eat properly when Saralaben tells you to eat. And also they will be monitoring the oxygen saturation level. And by just looking at you, the way you are smiling or not smiling, they can make out that you are having some problems. So they will attend to all those things.
We did the face, how you are doing.
Right.
We did the face. And we give a Diamox also.
Yeah, Diamox, yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we found it very interesting.
Make sure they drink lots of water. We have to observe everything.
Right. Prakash Bhai, just to let you know, since you asked me, even before I came from India, I had read about this Mansarovar when it opened up in 80s, because during the Cultural Revolution, Chinese Cultural Revolution, they shut off the Kailash Mansarovar to Indians since 1950. Almost 30 years, no one could go there. So in 80s, they opened, and I think, Subramanya Swami and Dr. S.L. Bhairappa and other celebrities went there. So since then, I wanted to go. And so when I got an opportunity and I heard about Ashok Bhai and Saralaben organizing in 2014, I immediately grabbed the opportunity, and I was lucky that Ashok Bhai allowed me to join his group, and we got a chance to do that. And it is, it's a dream come true to go to Mansarovar and to do Kailash Parikrama trek. Of course, it's all belief, but then when you believe, accomplishing it is, fulfilling life experience.
Wonderful.
Yeah, by the way, proper clothing for that elevation and windy conditions is very important.
They will provide you all the checklist, and the key thing is that you need to be disciplined to follow whatever they say to be successfully completing the yatra.
As I've seen Hiraji say many times that it's very common that most yatra groups have doctors, right? And he will say, I respect you all, but in the mountain, I have the mountain experience. So please follow my guideline of what I'm asking you to follow, right? So that you are successful to perform the parikrama. Yeah.
If you don't like Prakash Bhai and Bagu, if you don't like strict teachers, don't go with Saralaben because she is very strict. She will make you follow all the rules.
Even if I don't like some strict teacher, Saralaben is always fine.
We can talk.
One more question, folks. What's the bathroom facilities like? You're walking?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I remind you of your old days and village days. Whenever you feel like to go outside and enjoy natural beauty. It's hygienic. Go outside. Hygienic for hygienic. I think I love to go outside, not a bathroom. No, I'm not using bathroom at all. Go outside. In a hotel is a very good bathroom.
You
But
defy
while you are
Modi.
traveling, while you are doing parikrama, you have to go out.
But when when your goal is to do Manasarovar darshan and take a dip in the Manasarovar and do the Kailash parikram, rest of the things God will take care. No?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
I did National Himalayan Trekking Program. They're exactly the same facilities. When you
As soon as you step in Nepal, you forgot America and 5-star and everything. You forgot everything.
But the good thing for us is since we have some Indian background, nothing is new to us.
Yeah.
Ashok bhai, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
you mentioned about the Saptarshi, Saptarushi, Hatha Yogis. They traveled from Kailash to Aravalli and went to the south. So they stayed in Madhya Pradesh, around that area. What I learned about the history of yogis, Hatha Yogis. So this is the same story that the Saptarshis came from Kailash. They came down, all the Rishis came down and they stayed in our middle part of the India. And they are the initial yogis for 15,000, some many years back. The story is like that. And from there, the spirituality of this came up. Spirituality is slightly different than our religion. The spirituality believe in seeking. So those people who are going to Kailash, they usually try to seek something from the nature, from the Kailash. And we believe as a yogi that there is something called Shiv Yogi, and Shiv is the biggest yogi, old yogi. That's why we believe in Kailash, and we believe that we should go and have this darshan from Kailash.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, because the understanding and what I believe in is also that Adi Yogi was the first yogi, which is basically
Adi Yogi, yes.
Yeah, and Saptarushi, there were actually 100 or more than 100,000 people who came and sat, because Adi Yogi came and in the area of Kailash itself, right? Came and just sat, unmoving for not 1 day, 2 day, for years, right?
Years.
And after a while, people started leaving, thinking that there's nothing happening. But the Saptarushis, were so enchanted that how can a human being, I mean, because the Adi Yogi took a human form, how can this person be unmoving for such a long period of time? Because he was in the form of sadhana, right? He was just waiting in sadhana.
Sadhana, right.
For a long period of time, when he opened the eyes, the Lord Shiva, which is in the Adi Yogi form, he felt these 7 are deserving to be given this knowledge of yoga, because they are just mesmerized by the fact that how can somebody be performing a penance by just being unmoving, right? Not even a movement taking place. So there is something special, because it's easy to perform kriya and it's very hard to not perform any kriya, right? And he was basically not doing any performance of the kriya. So yeah, that's my belief system. And yeah, they initially got I guess bestowed with this knowledge of yoga, and the whole reason of yoga was not necessarily for physical well-being. It was physical well-being so that spirituality or the inner well-being can be governed, right? Inner well-being cannot be governed if you don't have a physical structure that's supporting you, right? So this is almost a support exercise to be able to perform the yoga. That's my understanding, Ganubhai.
Thank you very much.
Also, one of the yogis who did Kailash Manasarovar Yatra became Prime Minister of India.
Yes. Modi had gone there.
Modi ji, yeah.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question from Ashok Bhai?
Sure. Go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. That presentation was beautiful. And we actually, we were visiting there. It was not a virtual hike. It was real hike like. It was very well presented. Thank you so much. So I have a question about, you mentioned about 4 religions and there was one born religion. Is that offshoot of Hinduism or Buddhism or what? I don't understand that one. Can you please explain?
Sure. So my understanding of the Bon religion is it's actually a local religion in Tibet itself. It has a lot of philosophies which is very close to Buddhism, but also the tantric part of Hinduism, right? The tantra, not the yantra, but the tantra part of it, right? That aspect of it is also this. So they believe a lot more in sacrifices. They believe a lot more in the Buddhism feeling, and they are very, very small. They're pretty much predominantly in the Tibetan area. But that's what.
Tao? Do you call it Tao?
Tao is a Parsi. Tao is close to Parsi, I think.
Yeah.
Tao is the religion which goes with this, because Gandhiji believed that all these religions are same, and that religion also he included Tao.
This is Bon, B-O-N, Bon.
T-A-O.
I was thinking this is more associated with Chinese things because they also believe in Taoism. So what kind of that thing is this? Close to Buddhism?
Bon is certainly, if you see the temples of Bon in Tibet, they're very similar to Buddhism, but not exactly Buddhism. They have a lot of philosophies that are really close to Buddhism, but not exactly the same. And they have the Tantra aspect to it. That is mainly associated with it, right? It is not surprising to me that a lot of the fundamental religions did go from the Tibetan area to the larger Chinese mainland. So over the centuries, there has been an interplay that has taken place, but I do not know exactly when that interplay took place between Taoism and Bon per se. But specifically to Bon, they are a very small cult that is associated with this area between Buddhism and Tantric aspects of it. And they're predominantly in this small region of Tibet, which is.
Oh, thank you. And at Darshan, I found a group photograph of you all. So they were all in blues. Is that the costume or the uniform they have to wear?
That was our pre-planning. So all of us 55 were in hope and anticipation that we will make it. So we actually made those T-shirts over here in US.
Oh.
We took our yatra, and we had made a determination that before we commence our yatra in Darshan, we will all wear it and have a group photo because it will be a memory for years to come. So,
oh, okay.
I thought you were all Democrats.
and some at Darshan, yeah. I mean, you were all, and at some place you were in yellow. The tops were.
That is our Karnali.
Karnali jacket.
Okay.
That is everybody has to wear the same jacket. We can recognize while you are doing parikrama or whatever. If you lost something, we can find out this is Karnali.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. I mean, if you're lost, you can be found. So sometimes do you get some avalanche or cold wind, which is very, very dangerous for people?
Avalanche, not really, because you're pretty much in a plateau for the most part.